Level 1, the Script Kiddie. You download your first hacking tool from a forum that looks like it was designed in 1997. The interface is ugly, the instructions are confusing, and you don't understand half the terminology. But you run the program against your neighbor's Wi-Fi network because the tutorial says to, and the password appears on your screen. And something fundamental shifts in your understanding of how the world works. The password was Jennifer 1 1985. You didn't crack it through skill or intelligence. The tool did everything, probing the network for vulnerabilities that exist because most people don't know they exist. Exploiting weaknesses that have been public knowledge for years but remain unpatched because nobody bothered. You just press buttons. But even pressing buttons produces a strange rush. You access something you weren't supposed to access. You bypassed a barrier that was supposed to keep you out. The locked door opened because you found a key that was just lying there and the owner never knew you had it. Your friends think you're some kind of genius. You let them believe it because the truth is less impressive. You're a script kiddie running tools you didn't write to exploit vulnerabilities you didn't discover. The real hackers, the ones who write the tools and find the holes, they would laugh at you. You're a tourist in their world using their work without understanding it. But tourism can become residency. You start reading about how the tools actually work. Packet capture and network protocols, SQL injection and buffer overflows. The architecture of systems you've been attacking blindly. Each concept unlocks others. A cascade of understanding that reveals just how much you didn't know. You learn to code because coding is the boundary between using tools and building them. Python first because everyone starts with Python, then C because understanding memory manipulation requires understanding memory. Then assembly because assembly is where software meets hardware and where the most powerful exploits live. The forums become your university. Anonymous handles teaching anonymous students. Knowledge shared freely because knowledge hoarded is knowledge lost. You ask questions that reveal your ignorance and receive answers that reduce it. The community is harsh to stupidity but generous to curiosity. Ask the same question twice and you're dismissed. Ask a good question once and you'll get answers better than any textbook. Your first original exploit is embarrassingly simple. A web application that doesn't sanitize inputs, allowing SQL injection through a contact form. The vulnerability has existed for years on this particular site. You're not the first to find it, but you found it yourself through your own analysis, and that matters. The database dumps onto your screen in scrolling text usernames, email addresses, hash passwords that you immediately recognize as MD5, which means they're essentially unhashed to anyone with a rainbow table, customer data, payment information, administrative credentials. The company trusted their developers, and their developers didn't know what they were doing. You don't do anything with the data, not yet. The access itself is the achievement. You've crossed from consumer to producer, from user to creator. The tools you used before were written by people exactly like you, who started exactly where you started, who progressed through exactly the same learning curve. Now you're one of them, the late nights compound. You lose jobs because you can't focus on work that doesn't matter. You lose relationships because you can't explain what you're doing to people who wouldn't understand. The isolation feels like freedom. The obsession feels like purpose. Level 2, the freelancer. Money enters the equation, not through your own initiative, but through a message from someone who noticed your forum post. A job offer, vaguely worded, testing security for a company that may or may not have authorized the testing. The payment would be in cryptocurrency. The work would be pseudonymous. You're not stupid enough to say yes immediately, but you're not honest enough to say no. You research the client, which means researching through the tools you've learned, piecing together an identity from digital breadcrumbs. The company is real. The security concerns might be legitimate. The gray area is genuinely gray rather than obviously illegal. You take the job. The target is a competitor's web infrastructure. You're supposed to find vulnerabilities and document them. Whether the documentation goes to the competitor for remediation or to the client for exploitation is not your concern. You're just a security researcher technically. The work takes 3 weeks. You find 4 critical vulnerabilities that would allow account takeover, data exfiltration, and service disruption. You document them professionally as if you were a legitimate penetration tester delivering a corporate report. You receive payment. Nobody is arrested. The money opens doors that passion alone couldn't open. Better equipment, better learning resources, time to focus instead of working jobs you hate. You take more freelance work, always careful, always pseudonymous, always maintaining plausible deniability. Security research, that's all it is. The rationalizations become smoother with practice. You're not hurting anyone. You're finding problems that would be found eventually anyway. The companies you target have lawyers and insurance. They'll survive. The people whose data you access are abstractions, usernames, and databases rather than humans with lives. The money you earn is just compensation for skills that have market value. You develop a reputation under your handle. Reliable work, clean documentation, professional communication. The jobs get more interesting and more lucrative. Cryptocurrency wallets accumulate balances that would be difficult to explain to tax authorities. You maintain separation between your online identity and your legal identity. Layers of misdirection that feel increasingly natural. The operational security becomes second nature. VPNs chained through multiple jurisdictions. Virtual machines that leave no traces on the host system. Communication channels that encrypt everything and delete it automatically. You learn to think about surveillance before doing anything, anticipating how each action might be traced, planning escape routes before you need them. Your lifestyle adjusts to the new reality. No social media presence, no photographs that could enable facial recognition, no patterns that algorithms could detect and correlate. You become a ghost online and increasingly a ghost offline, existing in the spaces between surveillance systems. Level 3, the specialist. You develop a focus. Every hacker eventually specializes because the field is too vast for generalization. Some choose web applications. Some choose network infrastructure. Some choose hardware reverse engineering chips and extracting firmware. You choose financial systems, banks, and payment processors and cryptocurrency exchanges. The targets with the most money and therefore the most security. Breaking into them requires understanding not just technology, but regulation. Not just code, but compliance. The security teams are better funded and better trained than anything you faced as a script kiddie. Your first major financial intrusion takes 8 months of preparation. A mid-sized bank with online presence not big enough to have world-class security, but big enough to have real money. You don't attack directly. You attack a third-party vendor that provides customer service software, compromising their network, and then using that access to reach the bank systems. The lateral movement through the bank's internal network is the closest thing you've experienced to a video game. Each system captured opens new possibilities. Each privilege escalated reveals new targets. You map the infrastructure slowly, carefully, avoiding detection while building understanding. The database with customer information, the transaction processing systems, the cold wallet with cryptocurrency reserves. You extract nothing, not yet. The reconnaissance is its own product. Thus, information that has value to people who would pay for network maps and privilege chains in 0 days that haven't been patched. You sell the access to an intermediary who never tells you what happens next. The distance is deliberate. Whatever follows is not your problem, but the money from that sale is substantial, life-changing. If you were willing to change your life visibly, you're not. The spending would attract attention, and attention is what you avoid. The cryptocurrency sits in wallets nested behind multiple layers of obfuscation, accumulating value while you continue living modestly. Your skills compound. Each intrusion teaches techniques applicable to future intrusions. The patterns repeat across institutions, similar technologies, similar misconfigurations, similar human weaknesses. Social engineering works on bank employees the same as any other employees. Phishing works against security professionals who should know better. The human vulnerabilities never patch. You develop a portfolio of techniques that work regardless of the specific target. Credential harvesting through phishing campaigns, sophisticated enough to fool security-conscious users. Privilege escalation chains that turn low-level access into administrative control. Persistence mechanisms that survive reboots and security scans, and even some re-imaging procedures. The financial sector's security, despite its reputation, proved surprisingly inconsistent. The big banks are hard, but they all depend on vendors who are easier. The payment processors are protected, but the merchants who use them are not.